Breaking news.
A horrific event unfolded in Gaza on Sunday, June 1, 2025. Palestinians, desperate for sustenance, had gathered near a food distribution site. This site was close to a U.S. aid point, meant to offer relief. Instead, it became a focal point of immense suffering and loss of life. The air, once filled with hope, was pierced by violence. Reports quickly emerged of numerous casualties. The international community's attention was drawn to Gaza. The incident occurred as civilians were accessing food supplies. The struggle for basic necessities is a daily reality for Gaza. On this Sunday, that struggle turned deadly for many.
We begin with breaking news from southern Gaza. Israeli forces have opened fire at Palestinians gathered near an aid distribution site in Rafah. At least 30 have been killed and more than 100 are wounded. The aid site is under the control of the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is backed by the US and Israel. The United Nations has accused the organisation of weaponising aid, warning that it could serve to depopulate northern Gaza as planned by the Israeli military. Well, for more on this, we're going to speak to Hind Qadri as she joins us on the phone from Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. Hind, first of all, can you tell us a little bit more about this attack in Rafah?
The human cost of the incident in Rafah was staggering. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, at least 31 Palestinians were killed. This number represents lives lost in a desperate search for food, a fundamental human need. Each fatality is a story cut short, a family plunged into mourning. Beyond the fatalities, a significant number of people were wounded.
Dramatic escalation of the Israeli military's targeting of Gaza City in the north of the Strip. Over the past 2 days, warplanes have bombed and destroyed at least 70 residential buildings in the city. Entire families have been killed in some of those strikes. Schools that were housing displaced Palestinians have also been attacked. Gaza City was once the bustling commercial hub of the Strip. Now, entire neighborhoods are in ruins. The Israeli army has issued forced expulsion orders for residents with the stated aim of displacing civilians south so it can capture and hold more land in the north. Our correspondent Hani Mahmoud is in Gaza.
Hundreds of Palestinian families who are now sleeping in the streets in temporary shelters or not at all. This building behind me held over 40 people. One moment they were breaking bread together, and the next they are running for their lives or buried underneath the rubble of the bombed building.
170 Palestinians sustained injuries. This large number of wounded individuals further burdened Gaza's beleaguered healthcare system. Hospitals, already struggling with shortages of medicine, equipment, and staff, were forced to cope with a mass casualty event. Many of the wounded had sustained gunshot wounds, adding a disturbing dimension to the incident. The medical teams faced an enormous challenge in treating these severe trauma cases. The sheer volume of casualties underscores the extreme vulnerability of civilians caught in this ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis. The circumstances surrounding the tragic loss of life and injuries in Rafah are subject to conflicting reports. Eyewitnesses and local Palestinian sources described a scene where people seeking aid came under fire. The photo accompanying some reports, showing Palestinians pushing a cart with bodies, visually underscored the claim that they were hit by Israeli gunfire. This narrative suggests a direct attack on civilians who were merely trying to access essential food supplies. The Washington Post reported that local health officials and medics who treated the victims stated that most of the wounded sustained gunshot wounds. This medical evidence appears to support the accounts of live fire being used against the crowd. The location of the wounds, primarily in the extremities and upper body, is also a significant detail provided by these frontline health workers. Their testimony is crucial in understanding the nature of the violence that occurred. In response to these serious allegations, Israel's military issued a statement. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, stated it was unaware of injuries caused by IDF fire in relation to this specific incident in Rafah. The divergence in accounts highlights the immense difficulty in establishing a clear and undisputed narrative of events in a highly contested environment like Gaza. The sheer number of casualties and the nature of the injuries demand a thorough and impartial investigation to determine the full circumstances of this tragic event. The tragic events of June 1st in Rafah are part of a larger humanitarian crisis in Gaza. For years, Gaza has faced conflict, blockades, and economic collapse. Many rely on aid for food, water, medical care, and safety. The desperation at food sites reflects these hardships. Delivering aid to Gaza is fraught with challenges. Political and logistical hurdles impede essential supplies. Aid organizations warn of catastrophic conditions. The incident near the U.S. aid point highlights the dangers. Access to necessities is a life-threatening endeavor. The conflict between Israel and Palestinian groups heavily impacts civilians. Each flare-up results in loss of life and displacement. The international community calls for peace, but it remains elusive.